Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Squirtle Pay Dirt Pick'em Show. My name is Michael Swisher, and welcome to Week 6 here in Oklahoma high school football. And we've got an esteemed panel here. Luckily for everybody out there, Andy Campbell is not with us this week. That's why you see my mug on the screen right now. But hopefully Andy will be back next week. We got some of our regulars here. Tom Nelson, the guy who hacked into my computer last time I was on, stole all of my prep work. Tom, hear you're a big OU fan these days.
Oh, big, yeah. That's where my money's going. But K-State's going to roll this weekend in Stillwater, but my money still goes to OU. So,
yeah. Also joined by Mark Rogers, a guy so popular and famous that they serve him pie in the press box. Did I see that picture? Was that pie that I saw in that picture, Mark?
No, it was not in the press box. It was in the home ec room. So I learned some valuable homemaking skills in there. But anyway, hey. Thanks for shaving your face. I mean, you couldn't join the rest of us. I mean, we all have some pretty nice facial hair here.
Been growing this for 3 months. What are you talking about?
Yeah, okay, my bad. Good luck with
that. Also joined by Jacob Dieselhorse, of course, member of the firm Maples Nixon Dieselhorse, one of our great sponsors here on the show. Jacob, sue anybody today?
I don't think we filed anything today. We're pretty picky.
Well, there's always tomorrow right there. But couple of these games I'm really looking forward to.
Just one time I want to see Jake wear some Gucci like Ray Maples does. I mean, he has got some very fancy threads, and Jake is always playing it low key. So, I mean, can you at least dress up once for the show?
Dress up? We don't have to anymore. I mean, we don't have to dress up anymore. Now it's, we wear golf stuff every day unless we have court.
That's why his name is first and your name is last. So anyway, that's just my advice tonight.
I have to admit, he does have some very incredible designer sweatsuits.
All right. So before we go too far off the rails, we'll go on to our two special guest pickers tonight. Probably some faces you recognize. We'll start with Blake Jarwin, a former Tuttle Tiger, former OSU Cowboy, former Dallas Cowboy. Blake, thanks for joining us tonight. Let everybody know what you're up to these days.
Yeah, thanks for having me, guys. It's awesome to be here with you. I'm back in Oklahoma now, so I'm an Oklahoma resident. It feels good. I'm about 45 minutes south of Stillwater, which has been awesome to be close to home and see family. I'm actually headed back down to Dallas to start another workout regimen next week, see if there's anything left in the tank. Kind of feeling better from my injury, but got some work to do. So we'll see. Excited about that. Outside of that, just working on some real estate deals, commercial and residential, and enjoying some family time. It's been good to be with the family and be able to watch TVs on Saturdays and Sundays.
Well, we're going to test your high school football knowledge tonight, so we'll see how it plays out. And then last but certainly not least, Todd Lisenby. And Todd, your workplace address has changed in the last month or so. Kind of let us know where we can catch Todd these days.
Yeah, new venture at selloutcrowd.com. We've got a lot of big names in Oklahoma sports media: Barry Trammell, Jenny Carlson. Lots of new up-and-coming names like Eli Letterman, who's a young guy that's going to be a star in the business. Sam Mays with us as well, kind of from the broadcasting side. So we do a little bit of everything: writing, podcasting, kind of trying to hit that new age young viewer that watches everything in 1-minute clips, So it's a fun venture, and there's a lot of fun things on the horizon. So, yeah, I'm really enjoying it. And the good thing about it is I'm still able to do high school and UCO football on Friday and Saturday. So that's awesome for me. That's really where kind of my passion has always been.
Todd, I always knew you're best in 1-minute clips. I mean, that's from going way back. So
thank
you. Well, let's get started now. Our first game. We're going to go from small school to large school this week, and we're going to start in the 8-man ranks. And we've got number 2 Timberlake visiting Winoka. Timberlake 4-1 on the season. Winoka's 3-2. Both teams, though, undefeated in their districts. So this one's got a lot of district implications right now. Tom, I'm going to start with you. What are you thinking on this game?
It's still early, but let's be honest. This is the championship game in C1. Timberlake is ranked second in Class C this week, while Winoka, despite losses to O'Keene and Ringwood, are still ranked 6th. I've seen both of these teams at their low points this season. Timberlake's opening week loss at Covington Douglas and Winoka's home loss to O'Keene. Timberlake coach Brian Severin told me before that 0-week game they lost to Covington that his team wasn't very good, but by the end of the season they could be. This week he told me they're a much improved team. Maverick Judd has taken up where his brother Merrick left off. He's averaging 150 all-purpose yards a game. Coach Severin told me that the key is stopping Landon Seeger, that is Waynoka's stud fullback and linebacker. Last couple of games in this series have been shootouts, including Waynoka winning last year 44-32. This is a tough pick for me, and I think this is going to be another entertaining game. And I will say Timberlake goes on the road, goes west about 15, 20, 30 miles, and gets out of Waynoka with a win.
All right. And see, right there, Blake, you see what you got to live up to. But we're going to go to Mark next and see who Mark's got in this game.
I've got nothing to add on this, but I'm going to follow Tom. I think Timberlake wins it. It's 29 years for Brian Severin there. So he's done a great job uniting Helena, Goldtree, Jet, and Nash. Thank you very much. Nash. All right. So, yes, Timberlake wins this one in a close game. Well, 10 points.
Well, speaking of points, Jacob Dieselhorst, what do you got for us?
It's hilarious. Yeah. -10. Mark, we should be. Well, I'm telling you, Mark should set the lines. He's been calling it like weekly before I say it. So yeah, I got Timberlake going on the road at Waynoka, and like I said, a 10-point favorite. You know, these teams do have one common opponent. They both played Ringwood. Timberlake won their game 48-38, and Waynoka played them on the road and lost a close one 48-37. So I do think it's gonna be a tight game. But I got Timberlake winning it.
All right, so that's 3 for the Tigers. Blake, are you going to buck the trend, or are you going to go with the rest of the group right now?
And I think I'm going to stay with Timberlake on this one. I'll save my opposite pick for later in the night.
All right, so far, everybody going with the road team this week. Todd, who are you picking?
It's really hard to pick against a cool nickname like the Railroaders, right? I mean, it's such a cool nickname. But I think I'll agree with everybody else. I think just kind of looking at schedules and comparing things, that Timberlake looks to be the stronger of the two teams. And, yeah, I'll say Timberlake in a tight one.
All right, so it's a straight win there for Timberlake. So we'll see if Waynoka can pull off what we would consider an upset, and then kind of said, told you so to the Squirtle crew. Let's go keep it in the 8-man ranks now. We'll go to Class B, where Regent Prep is going to make the drive to Drumright. Probably be an emotional night in Drumright with all that happened last weekend. But Regent Prep ranked number 3. Both teams undefeated, though. Finally getting to start some district play here. Mark, let's start with you on this one. Who are you picking in this game?
Well, I would expect that Jake has Regent as the favorite here, but I've seen a little bit of Drumright, and whenever I get texts from people at the radio station on, hey, what are you picking in this game? And it's from somebody that's in a town, I think it's kind of a loaded question. So I'm going to go with an upset here, and I'm going to pick Drumright. I'm not sure that Jake's going to be able to give us a spread on this game until he's finished with his rave, but I'll take the Tornadoes.
Yeah, I'm kind of waiting for the fist pump here. What we got going on here, Mr. Dieselhorst? Oh, we lost him.
That's all right.
We lost him. So he can hear us. I guess we can't hear him right now. So while he gets his audio figured out, let's go to Tom.
Well, first things first, and Swish, you just alluded to this. Drumright suffered a tragedy over the weekend as 2 student athletes were killed in an ATV accident. Our thoughts and prayers are with the Tornado family. There's going to be a lot of points scored in this one. Both teams can put points on the board and give up a bunch as well. The average score of a Drumright game this year is 63-24. Average score of a Regent Prep game is 55-19. But they outscored Waletka 64-40 and Wetumpka 55-48. They can give up some points as well. Chris Ellerick has turned around a program that was 3-6 a year ago at Drumright. But I don't think that Regent Prep's going to look past the Tornadoes for their game next week against Barnsdall. You know that Drumright is going to play hard and with emotion in this game, but I think that Regent Prep will get the win.
All right. Jacob, we still efforting, or are we good to go? Because I'm really curious about your total on this game.
Sorry about that. I had some my iPad's about to die. I have Drumright at 8.5-point favorite because of the home team. I think it's a really even game. It's going to be high scoring. Based on my pick of the game, I have the 89 points being scored. So I don't know if I would set the line that high, but if I was doing over-unders, but I got Drumright winning 48-41.
All right, let's go with you, Blake, here. Regent Prep making the trip to Drumright. Who you think is going to pull out the win?
Yeah, I think that both teams can score a lot of points, but I'm going to have to take Drumright on this one. I don't know, just something about it. I think it'll be emotional for those kids, and I'm rooting for them this week.
Absolutely, yeah. Drumright, 46, the fewest they've scored this year. Pretty amazing there, at least 60 in all other games. Todd, these amateurs here having problems with their audio. Go ahead. While we got them all fixed up, who you got in this game?
I'm so glad. I'm glad you guys could have me here to troubleshoot for you earlier. I have fond memories of Drumright. My senior year in high school, that was the number 3 game on the schedule for us at Luther. And in our first game, our kicker broke his leg because he also played nose guard because Class A football. And in our third game, our kicker missed a couple early extra points, and I had happened to finish back up in the kicking competition. So my first kick was at Drumright, and I'll never forget it. 330-pound lineman. I ran off the field. My coach said, "Hey, run back and kick the extra point." I got back. I was out of breath. I set down the little kicking block, and the white hat said to me, he said, "What are you doing out here?" And I said, "I'm kicking the extra point." And he said, "Well, I guess I've seen it all." So I have very fond memories of Drumright High School. So I'm going to go with the Tornadoes in this one. Great mascot as well, the Tornadoes.
You didn't tell us if you made it.
Of course I did.
Okay.
Kept the job all year, baby. Lou Groza, toe poke style.
Straight on. All right. So most everybody they're going with the home team, but Tom going.
I'm on an island. I'm on an island.
So taking home all the money if you win that one, Tom. Now let's go. Move on up to 11, man. We'll go to District 2A7. Top 10 matchup here in Class 2A as Kansas undefeated on the season going to Beggs. Beggs Demons 3-2, 1-1 in the district, coming off that loss to Victory Christian last week. Let's see. Let's start with Jacob in this game. We'll mix it up a little bit. We'll start with you, Jacob. Who do you have winning this one?
You know, when I was looking at the 2A rankings that came out this week, I saw that Kansas was ranked, and I thought it was a misprint. It's almost as odd as seeing Kansas ranked in the AP poll. I didn't even know there was a Kansas-Oklahoma. Anyway, Beggs, I think they've got to get back on the winning track. They have played such a brutal schedule. You know, they really challenged themselves playing some tough opponents. Took a beating from Rejoice. And Victory Christian, they're not afraid to play their Christian schools. We're not talking about, this is the new Beggs. They're ready to face opponents, and I think they're going to keep their dogs at home because Kansas, top 10 team, hasn't lost a game yet. Coming into Beggs, I got them a 5-point favorite, but I think Beggs is going to defend the home field and win this game 28-27.
Well, it's interesting. Beggs is giving up 35, 36, and 50 points this year. That's probably not something that they're really accustomed to there. Todd, we're going to skip over to you, see who you've got in this one.
Well, and Kansas hasn't given up more than 14 points this year. So I really like the comments in this one. I'm with Jacob. Seeing Kansas ranked is very odd, right, in football, but they look really good so far this year, and I can't get past the amount of points that Beggs has allowed recently. So I'm going to go with Kansas to win this one.
Seen a lot of really good Kansas girls basketball teams over the years. That's what in my book, that's what they're best known for. Blake, Kansas and Beggs, who you picking?
I'm going to take Kansas in this one. Like Todd said, not allowing more than 14 points a game, and Beggs letting teams score some points this year. I think the comments take it home.
All right, 2 for Kansas, 1 for the Beggs Demons. Let's go to you, Mark Rogers.
Well, a couple things here. I completely agree with you, Swish, that Kansas is a basketball powerhouse. So you got to favor them in this game. And then also, I think this is another clear example of Jake using arbitrage to try to move and manipulate the line, picking Beggs as a big favorite, then taking Kansas with the points. But I also do want to I have some props tonight. So right here is the questionnaire from the Luther Lions in 1997. And I don't know if you can see it on there, but there is Todd Lisenby. And it says, if sophomores on the line can step up, we could have a good season. So they had Larry Dupree, and I think he set the state rushing record as a senior. So those sophomores must have stepped up pretty good. So Todd was not only kicking field goals, he was blocking for the guy that ran for more yards than anybody in the history of Oklahoma high school football. So I think he's right. I'm going with the Comets of Kansas.
Todd, did you make Larry look good, or did Larry make you look good?
Yes.
Yes, that's what I like. Tom, who we picking?
Oh, first of all, I got to throw a trivia question out there. Who is the Kansas Comet?
That'd be Gale Sayers.
That'd be Gale Sayers. Exactly right. Okay, I had to throw that in there.
He's not
Well,
playing
last
in this
week,
game. That would definitely move
Yes.
the line a little.
Yeah, that would. Last week, Beggs tried to keep up with Victory Christian. They lost in a track meet 50-34. That loss has them looking up in the 2A7 standings at Kansas, who has started 5-0, and they can clinch their first regular season winning season since 2013. But there are some good teams in this district, and they want to help their playoff positioning. This would be a big one for them. The Comets have a dynamic quarterback. His name is Seneca Steele. Some good experienced seniors and juniors, some talented younger guys whose confidence level is getting higher and higher with every win. They had a huge win over Colcord in week 1, and this is another measuring stick game for them. I'm a native of the state of Kansas. I'm going to take the Kansas Comets to get to 6-0.
All right, so this time it's Jacob out on an island, as he's the only one to pick Beggs.
And
We'll know a
just
lot
for the
about
record,
He picked
I wanna-
Kansas, then he set the
Just- no, I
line as
didn't.
Beggs' favorite.
No. Let me clarify, because there seems to be some confusion. I got Kansas a 5.5-point favorite, but I have Beggs pulling the upset at home, 28-27. Just for the record.
Okay.
Mark, you work with the guy that does that. If he's wrong,
I
he's
know. I've seen it many times. I've seen it.
Yeah, we'll know a lot more about Kansas over this next month. The three of the
Eagle.
next 4 weeks, Beggs, Kiefer, and Victory Christian. So, we're going to find out how for real they are. And then my question for you, Mark, is: did you just pull that questionnaire out, or did you have that prop ready to go once you found out Todd was going to be on the show? Because
I have more props. You can wait. Just wait.
Okay, so
You guys think I do homework, man. Mark is bringing it every week. He is bringing it every week.
He might have gotten that from the shrine that he sends me pictures of every now and again that he's got of me. So
all right, let's move.
Oh, well, okay. Let's move on.
Let's keep it in Class 2A as we move on. As Bethel makes the trip to Chandler, the Lions ranked number 6 in Class 2A, 4-1 on the season, 2-0 in the district 2A2. That is, Bethel comes in at 1-1 in the district, 2-3 overall. They're 1-2 of 3. Let's go kind of in our order here. Tom, we'll start with you. Tell me who you got.
Well, I mentioned Carson Clagg last week after a solid performance. He took it to another level this week, producing his first 200-yard rushing game of his career. He had 243 yards and 4 touchdowns, just 13 carries in their big win over Meeker. He averaged 19 yards a carry with a long of 43, so it wasn't like he had some big 80-yard run to inflate that average. He was outstanding all night long. Bethel's 2 wins were over teams who were a combined 0-10. They lost by almost 40 points to the same Meeker team that Chandler beat last week. Last year, Chandler won this game 48-15, and I would say that sounds like a pretty conceivable spread this time around. The Lions are going to roar again.
Don't try to steal Jacob's thunder with a point spread. Mark, we'll go to you.
Tom is kind of like the Greg Roberts of this show. I mean, he's got all this information and he delivers it in such an impactful way. I mean, I had written down Carson Clagg, 13 carries, 243 yards, 4 touchdowns, but Tom didn't mention that he had 14 tackles on the defensive side of the ball. So that's on my notes right there. When I think about Chandler, I'm a little like, hey, can these guys compete for a 2A state championship? And their only loss of the season is at Poto, which is really good. And they were in that game and went score for score with them early. And I think Poto is a Class 4A state championship contender. So I think Chandler is a team that can win it. The big game for them this year is going to be with Jones in a couple of weeks. So Chandler's going to beat Bethel. I don't know if I'm going to pick it as big as Tom seemed to pick the game. So I'll go with Chandler by 30.
Yeah, and that loss at Poto, Chandler hung in there quite a bit longer than I thought they would. I thought, Poto would kind of establish it early, and Chandler was right in it, at least into the second half. Pretty impressive showing in that loss. Jacob.
every time Chandler's on the show now, I'm not going to forget Mark hurting my feelings really bad about cottage cheese. I refuse to accept your oppressive beliefs in cottage cheese. There's nothing better. That's all I'm going to say.
Discount label, premium label,
Yeah,
still the same.
So, but to be serious for a minute, here we are again. Mark said 30. I have the line. I got the line 29.5. I swear, it's crazy. I have the line 29.5. I got Chandler winning the game 49-20. So I got another Bethel Bill backdoor cover there. But yeah, Chandler is definitely a team that could challenge to make it to the Final Four in 2A and maybe even make some noise and pull an upset and have a chance to win the whole thing.
Blake, you said earlier you were going to wait until later to kind of go away from the crowd. Is this the game where you do it?
No, I don't think this is going to be it. Chandler's been dominant on the ground. I think they're going to dominate the game, control the ball, and I think that I'm going to take the over on that 29.5 this week.
I'm picking a big Lions victory there. Todd, big Chandler fan growing up in Luther.
Well, they're Lions, and Lions got to stick together. So, and like you guys said, their big game in district's going to be against Jones, and that's the big rival in Luther. So, I'm pulling for Chandler to keep that momentum going. I'm with you guys. I think they are legit state title contenders. So, yeah, I would go Chandler big in this one.
All right, pretty easy pick for everybody there. Going with the home team to improve to 5-1 on the season and 3-0 in that District 2A2. Let's go to Class 4A now, where Tecumseh is going to Hera. This is a game where, if either one of them really wants to keep their playoff hopes alive, they probably need to win this game. I'm going to start with you, Mark Rogers, so you can steal Tom's thunder and go ahead and tell us who you got.
Well, if Hera's going to make the playoffs, I think it's going to come down to them playing Bethany. But they've played both Blanchard and Tuttle in this district, and those are two really, really tough games. But other than that, Hera's been really good this year. So I think Hera beats Tecumseh this week, and the game with Bethany will decide who's going to be the fourth place representative in that district. Newcastle, Blanchard, and Tuttle are all really good. And we got to pick that Blanchard-Tuttle game a little bit later. So I'm going to go with the Panthers in here. And I'm going to say Jake's going to have this one right around 21.5 favored of Hera.
I was waiting for Jacob to look up there. He didn't. So, Jacob, what say you?
I have a certain way that I do my calculations to come up with my lines. And so, and I actually don't have Hera that big of a favorite here. They have a common opponent, these two teams. Both have played Seminole. Tecumseh handled Seminole 42-24. Hera destroyed Seminole 45-6. And so I have Hera a 14-point favorite. So it's not that far off. And I have Hera winning the game 34-18.
2 for the Panthers. Blake, are you going to join them?
Yeah, I'm going to stay on the train with everybody else and take Hera in this one. I just think that when you compare who they played, and I just think Hera can. I think 14 points is just about right for this one.
Tuttle rolled out the red chrome helmets last week with the Oklahoma and the T's in there and all that stuff in Blake's hometown. And Hera played close in the first half, 7-0 game at half. So I think that the fact that they weren't intimidated by that and the $10 million stadium that's been built out there in Tuttle tells me that they're going to be just fine in this game when they come home against Tecumseh.
Let me tell you something. It's a little different out in Tuttle now than it was when I was there. I'm a little jealous about everything they're building. We used to have that normal grass field, and we had like a concrete.
How was that bussing over from the high school to the stadium to practice? Now these guys have got like a luxurious locker room and all that.
Hey, man, hey, they deserve it. But yeah, I something deep inside me is like, man, that would have been a little nice. Okay.
Well, it's the house that you built.
Hey, that's right. Yeah,
that's true.
No character.
You paid for that.
So, that's right.
They got some impressive jerseys hanging in that locker room in there with Blake and Jason White and then a few others. It's a pretty good sight to see.
Todd?
So I've seen Hera this year against Blanchard, and that I think that game finished 46-13, but it was 14-6 Blanchard at halftime, and Hera played with Tuttle for a half as well. The only thing I'd worry about maybe for Hera is how beat up they are after having to play Blanchard and Tuttle back to back. I don't think either of these teams is going to make the playoffs. I think Bethany's probably the fourth playoff team out of that district, which is one of the toughest ones in any class in the state when you talk about just depth of the top four. But I think Harrah's the most likely team in the district to pull an upset. So I'm going to say that they keep their slim playoff hopes alive with a win over Tecumseh this week.
All right, Mark Rogers, who is a former Tuttle Tiger, who's now a Division I offensive coordinator.
What? I have no idea. I should be able to get this right.
Blake's shaking his head.
Oh, you know this one, Mark. He's been to Oklahoma State for a time too.
I
Texas
couldn't pass
A&M?
it.
Nope.
No,
Texas A&M guy.
Josh Henson.
Yep.
Yep, there you go.
There you go.
Listen, I've had to erase that since he's working with Lincoln Riley. I mean, people would be too upset with me
Fair enough.
if I mention
Yeah.
anything there. So,
And honestly, the reason I
what's
know
Josh
that
doing?
he got his
That's it.
start at Kingfisher. His very first coaching job was at Kingfisher for 1 year.
Huh. I didn't
He
know
was offensive
I
line
think he's
coach.
just
and-
been named the head coach at Oklahoma State. That just depends on how good USC does this year.
There you go.
Well, they need to name a defensive coordinator at USC. Just let them do both sides of the ball.
Tom Nelson, who you got?
Let's give a shout out to 4A District 2. All 8 teams have a winning record halfway through the season. Of course,
Wow,
now they get to
great
play
stat.
each other. That's going to change. But this district is pretty darn good from top to bottom, as we've said. This is a matchup of two of those teams that are most likely going to be on the outside looking into the playoff start. Before the season, the district coaches picked Tecumseh and Harrah 5th and 6th. Harrah started out 3-0, but drew 2 of the top teams. The district lost to Blanchard and Tuttle. Were outscored 76-13 in those 2 games. Devin McCarrig had 228 yards and 3 touchdowns against Seminole 3 weeks ago, but he found the tough sledding against Blanchard and Tuttle. He got 117 total yards and no scores the last 2 weeks. This has been a good series. They played every year this century except for the game canceled by COVID in 2020. Tecumseh leads the series 12-10. Last year, Tecumseh won 13-6. And I like what Todd said. Tecumseh hasn't been beat up the last 2 weeks like Harrah has been. And Savages rolled over Classen last week 42-7. So they're pretty healthy, I would imagine. I'm looking for any kind of an edge in this one. I'm going to go with that one. I'm going to take Tecumseh. I'll be on an island on this one.
Second time that Tom's jumped out there on his own, so we'll see if it pays off. Now let's go to Class 5A District 1, where El Reno 2-3 on the season, 1-1 in the district, going to Midwest City 3-2 and 2-0. Of course, El Reno last week got the tip in at the buzzer, beat Noble 68-67 in that shootout there. Tom, I know you got the stats, so I'll let you spit the stats on what happened in that game with Mr. Malachi Nicholson.
Yeah, I don't think there's going to be a game this year any more nuts than that game. 68-67 came down to the last seconds, and Noble, El Reno beats Noble. Now, we've talked about Malachi Nicholson on the show before. Then he goes out and puts together the second most prolific rushing performance in state history. 37 carries, 521 yards, 8 touchdowns. Like I said, that is just nuts. Midwest City is going to play defense, and they're playing pretty well, starting off 0-2 against Carl Albert and Del City. And they're playing a team that gave up 67 points to Noble. I will say that Midwest City should roll in this one.
Yeah, the one thing I wonder about is, are they looking ahead of that matchup next week with Lott Mack? Of course, when somebody rolls for 500 yards, you probably don't look too far past them. I remember last Friday night, about 11:30 or so, I got a text from Glenn Miller, the great sports writer for the El Reno Tribune. He said, "Hey, what's the state rushing record for a single game?" So, yeah, I'm not real sure, but I know where to look. And we actually had to reach out to Chris Wilfong the next day. So that kept Glenn busy all weekend. Is it a state record? Is it not a state record? I think they went back and forth several times on that before realizing it wasn't quite the state record.
He missed it by 3 yards, right?
I'm honestly, I didn't even see what the record was.
I think it was 524. So one more little carry could have given it to him.
You guys mentioned Larry Dupree earlier. I'll never forget the last game of my senior year against Wetumpka. He had 396 on 9 carries.
Wow.
And a half.
Well, now that you mentioned that, who do you have in this game, Todd?
I'm with Tom. I mean, I think that Midwest City is going to roll in this game. It's still hard for me to get used to seeing Midwest City and El Reno in the same class. or Midwest City as 5A. As someone that
Yeah.
grew up around here, that's just jarring for me to see. But I saw Noble early in the year. That was Blanchard's week 1 opponent, and I God love them. I didn't think Noble was that good. So if they needed a 68-67 game to sneak by Noble, I kind of think Midwest City's probably a class better, and the Bombers should roll in this one.
You got to wonder if Jason Kersey himself wasn't out there playing a little defense last week. It was tough sledding for anybody there. Let's go with you, Blake. Who are you picking in this one?
Yeah, I'm going to take Midwest City. It sounds like they've just taken care of business, and El Reno is struggling against a Noble team. I think the Bombers take it home.
Jacob?
Midwest City is is the best 3-2 team in the state. I mean, at least on paper by any class. Their 2 losses are to arguably 2 of the top 5 teams in all weight classes in Oklahoma. Carl Albert, as good as Carl Albert's been, this might be the best Carl Albert team we've seen in a decade, which is hard to believe. And then Del City is really rolling right now. And so Midwest City is definitely not a place you want to end up on a Friday night, coming off giving up 67 points to Noble. So I got Midwest City a 3 touchdown favorite. I got them a 21-point favorite, and I got them winning 49-28. I do think El Reno's running back will have 4 touchdowns, though.
So we'll set the over-under on that one. Take bets on that. Mark, you going with the group in this one?
That's a pretty salty player prop, 4 touchdowns. I'm going to take the under on Malachi Nicholson's touchdowns in this. Glenn Miller and I have been talking a lot today, so I'm not going to let Swish just drop names on here without letting me get involved in this. They are trying to go back and audit the film from Wayne in 2019 to see if Wayne's quarterback ran for 523 yards, but that film is proven elusive. So I'm not sure if Wayne has it. And so I think the fact that Glenn has gone back and audited this tape may give Malachi Nicholson the rushing record of the state of Oklahoma, as far as I'm concerned. I'm going Midwest City in this game because I'm a little concerned about El Reno's defense. I think Midwest City is the defending district champs in this district. They'll probably give that title up, I think, to Elgin this year, who's the team that they faced last year in the regular season final week. So, but Midwest City wins this game against El Reno.
Mark, I think the week before you got hit up by Glenn as well on that crazy.
I did, and
the ruling on the punt, and
I felt
had to
really
hit up
bad about
Kevin
this
Clark.
because I used to be friends with Toby Rowland. We worked with Dean Blevins together, and we bonded through that because we just couldn't even sit here and explain that. But anyway, I sent Toby a text and asked him to pass it along to the statistician. Crickets on that, so I don't know about anything other than that. So,
well, I hit up Kevin Farr, and he's
yes, good.
old
good
coach's
fit.
aide, Kevin Farr, and he had an answer for us, so I passed that along. I don't even remember the scenario now. It was way over my comprehension, but Kevin Farr had the answer for it.
It was okay.
turned into a rushing
stat.
stat.
I know exactly what this was. It was a punt that was kicked in the air and went backwards behind the line of scrimmage. Was it considered to be a punt return if the ball was picked up behind the line of scrimmage? That tells the detail that Glenn goes into. So
Yeah.
I don't know the answer to that. I hope if you found out what it was, then that's great work.
I was told it would be considered a fumble by the punter and then rushing yards for the player that picked it up behind the line of scrimmage. There you go.
Okay.
Everybody follow that? Well, now that everybody's thoroughly confused, let's go.
You learn something new on this show. Everybody. That's why people watch this show. They never know what they're going to learn.
Yeah. or want to forget. Let's go to our games of the week now.
They should see the outtakes.
Let's go to our games of the week, and we're going to start with the big one in 4A2. We've already mentioned these teams multiple times tonight, beating up on some other teams in their own district. This one you're going to be able to watch on BlanchardLions.tv and here on Squirtle.tv, but it's number 3 Tuttle taking on number 4 Blanchard. Both teams 4-1 overall, 2-0 in the district. They both obviously have big district title implications. And what that means in the playoffs with those home games. So let's see. Let's just Todd.
I'll start on this one. Let me start on this one.
Okay. Well,
Okay. I don't know about that Blanchard Lions TV broadcast. I hear it's very critical of the officials. And so one of the officials, Jeff Murray, reached out to me and said the broadcaster on Blanchard Lions TV was very critical of the referees a couple weeks ago in a game against Shawnee, and came back and said that the announcer was right on 2 of the 3 calls. So it's tough to criticize the referees. I usually don't go into that realm, but anyway, if you're going to do it, you might as well be right. So congratulations to that broadcast on getting 2 of 3. Then for me in this game, I'm going to pull a Tom Nelson, because 2 of my favorite people in this whole world when it comes to high school football are Jeff Craig and Brad Ballard. I thought this was a big time rivalry until I saw them at the Squirtle Golf Tournament earlier this year, playing in the same foursome with Jeff Word, the Blanchard basketball coach. And that just kind of blew my mind that these guys are really friends off the field. This is maybe the best rivalry going right now, because both of these teams are title contenders in Class 4A. Last year, it came down to a play with under a second to go. And so Tom doesn't like picking the games he's doing. I'm not going to make a pick here. I think it's probably going to come down to the final minute again. Love both of these teams, and it'll be a great game. I wish I could be there on Friday night.
Todd, I hear you might be there Friday night. Are you going to pick this game, or are you going to?
I'm actually not going to be there I'm traveling with UCO this week, and I'm bummed I'm missing it, because last year I did call that game at Tuttle, and it was one of the best games I've called in a long time, high school football wise, on the walk-off touchdown by Jackson Laminack. But first of all, thank you, Mark. It's good to know that on the broadcast I was right on 2 of the 3 referee calls. I did learn the hard way that the rule had changed this year on holding, that it's now 10 yards from the previous spot. I didn't know that until week 2, but it's so hard to keep up with all the rule changes nowadays anyway. Yeah. I would just say, look, there's obviously a lot of big rivalry vibes with this game, and I know how big it is for both schools. I think Blanchard is better defensively than they even were last year. I don't know that they have as much big play offense as they did last year. And I thought last week's win over Newcastle for Blanchard was good, because it was the first time all year they'd really run the football effectively. And I think you're going to have to do that against Tuttle to move the ball against them with a very good defense. So I'm going to go with the home team in this one. I'm going to go with another Lions in Blanchard, and I'm going to take Blanchard to win this one in a close one.
Oh, Blake looks upset.
Look, Blake looks mad at me already.
No.
Well,
hey,
here's your chance, Blake.
Yeah.
Hey, this
Man.
is going to be different, guys.
Why
I don't think Blake ever lost a game to Blanchard when he was playing.
Unfortunately, I did lose. I went 3-1. I got it all here. I got the last 15 years lined up. I had to go through it and relive every bit of it. But man, this game gets my blood boiling quite a bit. It's fun, man. It's been a rivalry for a long, long time. For me, especially, it was a game I always looked forward to when I was there in Tuttle. And I think Tuttle's got a really good defense. I think they're going to keep Blanchard at bay. I think it's going to be a really close game. I think it's going to be a really low-scoring game. And I think the biggest scoring difference of the last 4 or 5 years has been 7 points, when it was 7-0 and Tuttle lost. So, but I will say, looking through my stats here, Tuttle's only lost back-to-back years to Blanchard one time in 13 and 14 over the last however many years. So I don't think that they let Blanchard get a hold of them this time, and I think that they pull it out late in the game.
All right, so we're split on those, and you mentioned that Tuttle defense. They gave up 20 in that loss to Guthrie, pretty respectable there. The other game, 7-7, 10-0. So, big news. Tuttle's good on defense. Shocker right there. Tom Nelson, what do you got?
I'm going to go a little deeper on this rivalry. They've been playing since 1946. This is the 75th meeting, which means you can print up your Diamond Jubilee T-shirts if somebody wants to make some money on that in the next couple of days. Tuttle has dominated the series, helped in large part by the 20-year winning streak in the 90s and the first decade of the 21st century, which ended in Blake's senior year. But it's Blanchard that has won 2 of the last 3, and the last 4 have been decided by a total of 14 points. Both these teams are 4-1. Both are ranked in the top 5 in 4A. Blanchard has the high-flying offense led by Carson Cooksey, but Tuttle has the stiff defense, giving up 11 points a game. This is a coin flip pick for me, man. I could go either way. I'm gonna go ahead and go with the home team. I'll go with Blanchard.
Jacob?
Yeah, everybody's been calling it again. showing that my lines aren't that far off because I have this game pick 'em. It's just a straight up toss up. Pick a side, and that's who you got to go with. Blanchard being the home team, Tuttle haven't been their nemesis for many years. A lot would say Blanchard so far. Especially their only loss to Piedmont, and then very impressive wins the last 2 weeks against Hera and Newcastle. Todd, you said you're going to be traveling with the UCO crew and going to miss this game, but at least you're going to be hanging out with John Fitzgerald, who is, a fellow OEFC soccer dad like me, and also one of the best sports photographers anybody could ever. Takes incredible pictures, action shots. I've been spoiled over the years for the games that he's, caught of Hannah, and so. But at least you should be in John's company, so that'll make up for it. For you missing this barn burner that I have Blanchard winning 21-20.
That's good.
John Fitzgerald also owns the greatest collection of Blake Griffin shoes in the world.
I think he's whittled down the shoe collection a little bit. It was pretty great at one point. I will say I'll be watching that game, the Blanchard Tuttle game. I'll be watching the call of that one because the college game on Friday night, I think, is probably not going to be very good.
No.
You guys are just all kinds of picking on Blake tonight, and
That's not really fair.
I just can't believe it.
I want to thank Blake for coming on, and I really do. I wish him the best, and hopefully he can end up in a tight end room where Taylor Swift is from time to time and benefit just everything that is that. Because I'm not mad at her for all the publicity. I hope it rubs off on a lot of other tight ends. This is the best time ever to be a tight end in the NFL. There's teams that have 3 tight end sets and all that stuff. So I would come out there and work out with you, but it's a little far of a drive for me to try to help you get ready. But I wish you the best of luck, and hopefully you can get back in there.
Yeah, thanks, Mark. I appreciate it. Yeah, man, that's something else, isn't it? It's a good thing. My wife, that's all she can talk about, my wife. So, hey, keep the TV on at night, I guess. So that's good.
as long as she didn't buy a Travis Kelce jersey, that's
At
all
least
right.
she's not threatened by Taylor.
All right, let's move to Thursday night for other game of the week, and I believe Tom, you're going to be in Stillwater for this one along with Adam. Am I right?
Yeah.
It's Sand Springs making the visit to Stillwater. 6A 2-1 battle right here. The Sandites 3-2, 1-1 on the season. Stillwater 3-2, 2-0. I'll start with you, Tom. Obviously, you've gotten started on your homework. We just kind of got the clearance on this. So, What are you looking at in this game?
I'm not going to make a pick on it, but I am looking forward to being at Pioneer Stadium on Thursday night. And going there is going to bring back a lot of good memories for me. First time I was there broadcasting a state championship doubleheader back in 2010, 8-man games. DCLA won in the afternoon in Class C, and Cherokee won that night in Class B. So 2 gold balls in one weekend. Great memories about that stadium. There's going to be a few more players from the sidelines this time. Stillwater has won 3 straight since an 0-2 start that included a loss to one of the best teams in Arkansas over at Greenwood, followed by a loss to UConn, and that is the Millers' only win of the season so far. Quarterback Chance Acord transferred in from Class A Cashin. His transition has been helped by Holden Thompson's 150-plus rushing yards a game. Tan Booth coming back for an injury last week, had a team-high 9 tackles in the secondary. Sand Springs' 2 losses are to 2 of the best teams in the state in Bixby and Muskogee. They started a sophomore quarterback whose name's Easton Webb, and he's got the benefit of a solid, experienced offensive line in front of him. They've also done a good job of opening holes for Kenneth Page, who's a good enough running back to do some things when he's got the room to run. Stillwater has dominated this series historically, and they've won the last 2 games by scores of 58-7 and 49-17. I'm interested to see if Sand Springs can hang with the Pioneers and make this game into the fourth quarter, make it interesting and worth watching.
And Tom, really, he just started his homework 10 minutes before our broadcast started on that game.
Yeah, it was not too much longer before that, yeah.
Let me step in and make that pick for Tom. I'm going to go with Stillwater in this game. Bobby Kling's doing a good job there at Sand Springs, but I think it's going to be tough to beat the Pioneers. What I do have in my hands right here is the 1997 Oklahoma Pigskin Preview questionnaire sent in by Lyle Welch at Fairview. And this is going to be a pretty good year for them. I think we got a guy named Matt Dieselhorst at quarterback, senior, 6 foot, 165 pounds. He's filled in pretty nicely throughout the years. He had 300 to 400 yards rushing the year before. And then on defense, there's a couple of guys listed here. One is Adam Dieselhorst, split end junior, 6 foot, 165 pounds. And then John Hardaway, junior, 6'2", 215 pounds on the defensive side of the ball. And Coach Welch said the receivers have good hands, but they're not very fast. So hopefully things will go pretty well for that team. But anyway, it said experience should be good for us this year. A lot of players coming back on that team. So some other familiar names in there. And I don't know, man, it was a tough district back then. They had Heritage Hall in there, Piedmont, Bethany, all these teams that have kind of grown up while Fairview stayed the same and really a good place to be.
I'm just, Mark, did Coach Hedge give you a height and weight for me back in the day?
He did not. You were just a sophomore at that time. He just listed you as other key players.
You weren't worthy.
I was
If I can
listed.
go to the 1999, we'll probably get an accurate height and weight.
I was listed in every program as 295 because he, quote, didn't want anyone playing for him that was listed at 300 pounds. So
It's Dean Smith. There was no 7-footers on that team.
that's right.
I'd list myself at 400. I'm just saying, is it just you? The bigger, the more intimidating. If I was in Blackwell and saw I was going to have to play against somebody that was really big, that has scared me to death. So
He told me if I list you at 300, they're going to think we don't do any conditioning. So,
it's too bad that Fairview didn't have any speed. I mean, anything they could do to make those guys faster.
Oh well, they got the.
Did Matt not play defense? Was he just an offensive guy? Was he that much of a prima donna then as well?
Matthew did not play defense. No, he was
Okay,
a quarterback. And the valedictorian and all that. So yeah.
he was too smart to play defense, Mark.
Probably so. What Rusty Harmon?
God.
Rusty
Eubank,
Harmon,
Daniel Cleaver.
Harmon, that boy could run the football.
Yeah, he was like leading
I
rusher
mean,
for 600 yards the year before, and a linebacker. He
Well-
played both sides of the ball.
Yeah. Well, Coach Welsh, not to get off topic here, but Coach Welsh should have looked a little bit deeper in his roster because the 2000 team won the state championship. So he had a state championship team and lying in wait there, and he had John Wogamuth on his bench there. So you talk about speed. John could run with anybody. So I'm sure Coach learned that later in the season.
I went to Boys State with Wogamuth. We were in the same city in Boys State. Woogie and I were. Great dude.
So okay, play on this fair. I mean, is Fairview the home of the all-name team? I mean, these strong names that they have: Wogelmuth and Hardaway and Dieselhorst and Van Meter was the coach. I mean, what kind of name? That's a name place right there in Fairview. I always thought that. Those are some.
They're the
Stop.
Bible State champions.
There's a tackle name that this is a nightmare when you're trying to produce a magazine. His name is Dalton something, 6'4", 275. It looks like Ulrich, but it is such bad penmanship that I can't tell. So,
Dalton
Ulrich. The mom calls me and is not mad at Coach Welch. You know, I mean, when it turns out something that's really wrong.
So
Ulrich.
Naturally, our Sand Springs, Stillwater, Pickham has moved to Fairview.
Yeah.
Tom, Mark, Todd, you're not eligible for this question. So that narrows it down to two of you. I'm going to guess one of you knows this. What is the name of the high school in Sand Springs?
I don't know. I've never stopped there.
Up earlier.
Meriwether Lewis.
I will tell you something. The first time I ever called a game at this school, I actually called it that name because I was just down from Kansas. So I thought that was the name of the high school. And then I realized that everybody else called it something else. But
So speaking of football magazine questionnaires, I did a few of them back in my day. And
Yeah.
a certain Alan Trimble filled in his, and we'd always have him, what's your pick in this district and who do you think? And he wrote Charles Page High School. And I was like, what is Charles Page? And so I had to look it up. I mean, Western Oklahoma boy, I didn't have a clue, but yeah,
Yep.
Charles Page High School. So
I agree. I know where you're coming on that.
Now, is the running back Kenneth Page any relation?
That's a good question. If it was, it'd be a great story.
Yeah.
I will tell you, I have 2 days to find that out, so I can talk about that on the broadcast. Thanks for bringing that out. It's a good idea.
Jacob, who do you got in this game?
Well, again, Stillwater, I feel like, start off the season took a couple losses early. They went out of state to play a game. Have come back, Oklahoma competition, went to Norman, which Norman's not a bad team, and they got a competitive team this year. Won that
2-0 in
game.
district.
Yeah, and then to beat Booker T. Washington 48-13 last week, I think that's a really impressive win for Stillwater. So I feel like they're starting to click. But Sand Springs has the best team they've had in years too, and they're definitely a playoff team. Beat Sapulpa 64-54 in the first week of the year. That's like a fun game to watch. But Stillwater, I being at home, which they do have a home field advantage down that new stadium of theirs. I got them an 8.5 point favorite at home, and I see them winning this game. And I got to give a shout out to my buddy Tim Holland, the GM at Eskimo Joe's, who's my college roommate, who's Josh and I's college roommate, and also I want to say get well to Josh if he's by chance watching this show, because one of the Deese brothers was down this week, but he's not out. He's back. But get well soon, Josh. But yeah, shout out to Tim. His son Jackson is one of Stillwater's very talented group of wide receivers. I got Stillwater winning the game 35-27.
Blake, do you agree?
Yeah, I do. Yeah, absolutely. I've got Stillwater winning this game. Tim's a good friend of mine too, so rooting his son on, and yeah, excited to see them get the W.
Hey, Mr. Lisenby.
So I've called one Sand Springs game ever, and it was that playoff game that was pretty controversial where they won at Midwest City on a last-second touchdown that was allowed and then not allowed on Ford Progress. So I think maybe I'm good luck for Sand Springs. But with that said, I just did a deep dive on high school mascots, and I found out that a Sandite is really just a made-up thing. It's not a real – it's just they just made a Minuteman and said, let's call it a Sandite. So for that reason, I'm going to have to go with Stillwater in this one. And this is a crazy fact. I don't know if this is true or not, but I was told by someone at Stillwater that the highest point of the high school football stadium is actually the highest point in Stillwater, higher than even Boone Pickens Stadium. So I think if you stand on the press box at Stillwater High School, technically you're actually higher up than at Boone Pickens Stadium. So maybe you can, Tom, you can workshop that for us. You can maybe go do a little surveying while you're up there.
I will be in high places on both nights, so I will definitely check that out.
I don't think that's right.
I've been at the very top of Boone Pickens, and that is up there.
Yeah, but I do think that Pioneer Stadium is the elevation's a bit higher as you go north. I think he might be right.
No, the highest point in Stillwater was Doug Gottlieb's dorm room when he was in school there. So you guys are off a little bit. I know that's true. And anyway, the Sandite had to protect Sand Springs from a Sapulpa invasion. So he stood on the banks of the Arkansas River and kept the chieftains from coming in there. So
I think they literally define it as a Sandite is the person you want to be. Which,
it's like the Maroon Spirit. I know a lot about this. It's like the Blackwell Maroon Spirit. It's also a mythical yet very impressive person.
But at least it's a color. A Sandite's not even a person.
Does Perry have the same thing then, or do they just not have that?
Yeah, it's like the JV version.
I like it. Mark's just throwing daggers all over the place.
He is killing people tonight.
It is all over the place. Well, that's going to do it for all of our picks. Certainly want to thank all of our esteemed guests for joining us tonight.
Hey, Swish, we got to do OU Texas picks. Everybody.
Oh, well, there you go.
Real quick. I'll start. I'll go fast here. I'm impressed with OU. Dylan Gabriel's playing out of his mind. OU's talented all over the field, but I actually can't believe I'm saying this. I think this might be Texas's year to actually make a run. If they can somehow avoid choking, late in the season in a game they shouldn't lose. This is the game I think they're going to be up for. I think Ewers is going to be in New York. I don't know if he's going to win it or not, but I think he's got a chance to be there. So I think Texas wins this year. But finally, OU in Texas has been restored to top 10 status going into Saturday. So excited about that.
I picked Texas on the radio. I'm going to pick OU here just to go against Jake. So I take OU by 3.
I'm hoping they both lose because we need to hang some losses on both of them so they don't play in the Big 12 championship game. That'd be the worst thing that could ever happen to us Big 12 fans. So,
Blake, what do you got?
Yeah, I think both teams are playing really, really good ball. I do have Texas winning this game. I think they've got a pretty good rounded team, and they're playing well all around. So, but OU is too. So it'll be a good game. I'm excited to watch it. But definitely Longhorns in the end.
How is that going to conflict with your game?
Yes, I'm not super happy about it, but I'll have it on the second screen during TV timeouts. I'm with Jago. I think this is one of the best Texas teams in a long time. So I think Texas is probably going to win by double digits. But I do think we'll see a rematch in the Big 12 championship game.
No, I hope not. Golly.
Nothing more I want to see than I mean, and I never ever pull for Texas, but I do want to see OU and Texas in the Big 12 championship game.
Only the Dover Longhorns.
Up to that one.
What a fitting way for the end of the Big 12, though, is they both ride off in the sunset. Like that would be kind of cool, I think.
No. Can't happen.
All right, just a reminder for everybody to join Tom and Adam Dieselhorse Thursday night, 7 p.m. kickoff, that big top 5 matchup in Stillwater with Sand Springs and the Pioneers. Then Friday night, our other game of the week, you can watch that on BlanchardLions.tv. Massive 4A2 showdown. Tuttle visiting the Lions there. I know Blake's going to keep a big eye on that one. If he's not there, I'm sure he's going to be watching. I want to thank you, Blake, for joining us tonight. And hey, best of luck, as Mark said. Best of luck as you go down there and try to get things going again.
Yeah, thank you guys so much. I really appreciate it. This was a lot of fun.
Todd, we'll be looking for those 1-minute clips. Looking forward to them, and to both of you. No big deal, but I was undefeated in my picks a few weeks back. I'm just going to throw that out there. I'm not going to make another pick the rest of the year. But Todd, thanks for joining us, and really looking forward to what you guys do on Sellout.
Always a blast. Thanks for dealing with my technical issues before we got started.
You see, nobody out there even knows what you're talking about, so it's no big deal. Mark, you get the week off? Nope, you're heading down to Dallas, right?
Yeah, that's right. I'll be in Dallas this weekend, so it should be a fun time. I haven't been in a couple of years, so I'm looking forward to it.
Jacob, Tom, enjoy that game on Friday night.
I'm actually skipping. I'm headed to KC for Hannah soccer, but I did give Tom some tickets to the Northside Club level, and I told him he'd be safe wearing purple up there. So
I will say it. I will say it here on national, whatever we call this. Thank you very much, and I will try not to yell too much. I will try to be dignified in the press box.
Don't let Mike Gundy know you've ever done radio.
Well, like I was last year at the OU on Parents' Day, the OU K-State game. I was dignified as K-State beat OU last year, so nobody even knew.
Well, speaking of dignified, be sure to catch the Squirtle Pay Dirt, 7 p.m. Friday. Get all the best of the action there on the biggest plays and some of the state's biggest games that we picked here tonight. That's going to do it for this week. Unfortunately, Andy Campbell will be back next week, so you'll be stuck with him. But until then, this is the Squirtle Pay Dirt Pick'em Show. Thanks for joining us.